7:01, I'll call Common Council meeting to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Martinkert,
Here.
Jutsky,
Here.
Gallops,
Here.
Gatsky,
Here.
Remark,
Here.
Schatzinger,
Here.
Sorensen,
Here.
Split,
Here.
Grant,
Here.
we have a quorum.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a prayer that was submitted by Reverend Mundell that I'd like to read. Gracious and loving God, let your spirit rest upon this meeting and the business conducted here today on behalf of the community of Ripon. Bless all those working for the city with your wisdom and discernment. Open all of our hearts and minds to seek the greater good for the whole community rather than just looking to meet our own needs. Help us to always listen to each other and never lose sight of our humanity with our ideology. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
All right, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented. I'll second.
A motion by Luke, second by Jonathan. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. No one has signed up for public comment. Move right into our agenda items. First item is the rezone application from the Ripon Area School District to rezone 9 parcels located within the school campus area from residential to institutional. You have the information in your packet. This was brought up for the mandatory public hearing at the Plan Commission on April 15th. And Plan Commission had followed through and recommended the rezone come before the council. Steve.
I just had a couple questions on this. I grew up a rural guy, so I understand about the animals and stuff. But what kind of animals are they going to have by the school?
Well, first off, as I explained at the Plan Commission, this application is to rezone. It has no bearing on the actual, what people are calling the barn. That is a possible future use for laboratory animal presentations. It's their intention, if they go that route, it's not a firm plan yet, would be to have instructional animals there for a day or a few days, but not permanent residency at the school.
That was my question.
Just, John.
I have a comment on that, and it ties in with Steve's. Once it goes from residential to institutional, then there's no question they can have animals. And the definition from LUD of a lab animal, which is in the ordinance, LUD sees no problem with having goats, cows, sheep, where I see a lab animal as frogs, mice, and rats. So that was one of the problems that they had, the citizens that came in. There was 5 people that came in and spoke against it. That was one of their problems they had. Also, if I can keep going, the school district, and I don't know if I have the exact quote, but it was said that their intent is not to keep animals for a long period of time. It was never said what a long period of time is, if it's overnight, if it's just for 2 hours during the day. They don't know. They did not have any answers for food storage, waste removal, smell, the possibility of varmints like mice, rats that would get into this area. And I don't know if you said the vote was 5-1.
5-1, correct.
I did vote against it. 5 people spoke out against it, and that was their concerns, and it's still my concern that once it gets rezoned to institutional, they can absolutely have, they don't have to come back and have permission to have large farm animals.
And just, I'll have Lud clarify here in just a second. The distinction is lab animals versus barnyard animals, the difference being the duration of time and the purpose for why they are there. If you could expand on that.
Yeah, the section that John is alluding to is section 4 under the institutional district zone. It reads, classrooms and laboratories, including facilities for the keeping of laboratory animals. And so the question was raised, is it absolutely clear what the definition of a laboratory animal is? And my answer was, I don't believe it's clear in the ordinance, and that's certainly the section that John is alluding to. And that doesn't mean that it does include large animals, but it also doesn't mean it doesn't include, is the argument. And so it'll have to be on a case-by-case basis for determine whether or not it includes larger animals. But the concept is in the section regarding classroom and laboratories. So it's the studying of the animal that I think would control in the end. It'd be possible that it could include larger animals. And that's what I stated at the Plan Commission.
Luke, then Steve.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. As someone who was a citizen member of the Plan Commission and no longer am, but I was part of this discussion too. And one thing that John raised too, and I think it's an honest concern, was whether these are barn animals or lab animals. My understanding when we were going back and forth is that it wouldn't be for barn animals, it'd strictly be for like laboratories. That's how I read it. But I also share John's concerns. One thing I wanted to add, and it's been what I've been thinking about probably since last week, was whether, or 2 weeks ago, whether that one parcel, which is the issue, which is the one off Tiger Drive, what do we see as the best future use or planned use for that parcel? And I think John had a good point on that at the Plan Commission, is it should be for R1 housing because they're around that district. So for that reason, I'm kind of hesitant on the Tiger Drive parcel, because I think keeping that R1 actually would serve as a use for the city, but the remainder of the parcels I don't have a concern about.
I just want to address that particular point.
Go ahead.
The current use that the school is using that parcel for is for practice fields and sports fields, which by our code should be zoned institutional for that use. So the proper current use for that would be institutional. The barn future use aside, the proper current zoning should be institutional for that parcel. And for everyone else here, there was no real concerns about the other 8 parcels that were being discussed. It was just that one concerned area on that back parcel. Steve.
Yeah, and to reiterate what John was talking about and what Lud was talking about, there's no specific time that this lab animal's going to be there. Say you have a cow or you have a couple cows. That doesn't mean they can't be there the whole school year, because there's no specific time that they're not a lab animal according to this. So they'd have to put up fencing, and they'll have to put up, pasture area. I mean, obviously, because you can't keep them in a barn all day or wherever they're going to be. They have to have room to roam. And that would be a concern of mine, like you said, even though I grew up in the country and we had cows and whatever. That's beside the point. It's just, we kind of leave an open door here of, like, are you going to have it for 3 months? Are you going to have it for 2 months? Are you going to have it for 6 months? Doesn't say.
But once again, I remind everyone that we're discussing a possible future discussion that the school district has not even come to a decision on. That's just a thought that they had that has not been even vetted by the school board, as far as I know. So it was just a possibility of something they might do in the future. We're not discussing that today. We're discussing the best use for the property. Jolene.
Thank you for reminding us of that. And for those listening, we all received this in our packet, but I think this is just a really nice paragraph that I want to read for what this is intended for. The greenhouse and animal shelter, now I've also heard this being called the Ag Educational Center, will be used as instructional resources to support hands-on learning opportunities in agriculture, science, and animal care. So in addition to the agricultural classes, this is going to be utilized by the ever-growing science department, where 3 classes, at least 3 credits are required in the curriculum at, correct me if I'm wrong, in the district, and for animal care as well. The animal shelter is intended for small livestock or companion animals as part of the educational curriculum. All animal housing will comply with standard educational and agricultural best practices related to animal care, noise management, and waste management. I think let's remember that this is under an educational setting, and so we're teaching our students best practice. And from my understanding, the school district is not planning on purchasing, let's say, cattle, for example, as far as, so the question of will they be there for 6 months, my understanding is they are utilizing or borrowing a family's perhaps goat, perhaps cow, and so the longer they're there, the longer they might be losing their income from, taking care of where that animal should be. And so the point here is that let's use our common sense here, that the reason why perhaps, again, they're not specifying, will it be 2 days, 4 days, is because it depends on how long that project will be for that class. And the intention is not for long term. Whether or not we need to negotiate what we're going to say to the educational institution, I'm not for that. But I also want to say that I am a member of the FFA alumni. This has been a long time conversation. This is something that, let's not forget, we have members from all across this community and area that are supporting this. Their reputation is on the line. So they want this to be successful. If there are complaints, they're going to have to answering. This is a well-respected organization, and they are planning on getting donations to support this program. And again, this is something where they're going to be looking at, we're teaching best practices. So as far as the question of how will food be maintained and these types of things, this is literally what they're teaching. So the concern about how that will be kept, if there is a concern, it will be addressed in an educational setting. We can monitor that if that's what we want to do. But again, let's just not forget that this will be monitored regularly. Now, I also come from, I went to Brilliant High School. We had an animal shed, agricultural education facility. I will say we raised poultry. I got to go to a national competition and was offered scholarships. I also got to take poultry to the state fair. This is something I did not have an opportunity with where I lived. So I specifically was offered scholarships. I was offered career opportunities, and in fact made a connection with Ripon College through the admission counselor, through her connection with 4-H, etc. I may not even be here if it wasn't for, quite literally, the opportunities I had for hands-on agricultural experience. I 100% believe in it. I can help answer questions. As far as I know that this is still being built as we go, but let's not forget these are our fellow community members where their reputation is on the line to put also financial support. We have agricultural businesses from across the area that want to help support this as well. And I do see that we have our superintendent who has joined us, and my understanding is it is a council member's ability to call them up if there was a question that we wanted to hear from the school district at this time, correct? I do see that they're here.
Do you have a direct question for her?
I don't necessarily have a specific question. However, I guess I understand that I can't just open it up. So perhaps I would like to call the superintendent and say, my specific question is, with your leadership to the community, would you be able to speak to how you see this benefiting the school district and community? Is there anything that you'd like to add?
Ron, if you'd like to step up.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
I think the benefit is in the educational side of what the opportunities that a greenhouse and animal shelter would provide for our students. That is the that's the purpose, that's the why, that we brought this forward and wanted to, and actually started working with Adam to make sure that the zoning would be something that we adhered to. And I can assure the council that our intent is to be a good neighbor and not to do anything that is going to upset the people that live there. We don't want to create a barnyard situation. The examples that we shared last time included if a sheep was going to, give birth, we would want to try to time that out so students could witness that. But it would not be, I think the longest duration of anything that I have been part of in terms of a conversation was about 10 days. And that would be taking care of a newborn calf. But not, larger animals would be there. So if it was a horse or a full-grown cow would be there for a day. So that, and there again, I guess I just want to reiterate to the council and to the community, it is not our intent to create unrest. It's our intent to partner with you. And if there are pieces of this that are difficult, we don't want to be a bad neighbor at all. We want to work together with you and provide opportunities for kids. So.
Thank you so much. And maybe just a quick follow-up is, do you believe that you will have in place the procedures to have good oversight over this and that it can be addressed if there are issues with cleanliness, with different things that my colleagues have raised? So that's number one. And then two, in today's world where students and families can choose to open enroll in other districts, do you see this as a way for the Ripon Area School District to stand out in the area and potentially even bring other students to our community?
Yes and yes. The oversight, we don't want to have a dirty facility. We don't want to have a dirty school as we are now. We don't want mice or any rodents in our buildings. And this would be another building. It's a school. It's going to be a school facility in a learning place, so we don't want that to happen. So the oversight is a definite yes. And as far as the draw, I think we are in a kind of a unique situation with the amount of green space that we're surrounded by in the community. And I do think it could be something that would be a draw as an opportunity for students that they might not have in a neighboring district. But I think that's a unique family decision that families would make. So in terms of it being something that would be different than the districts directly around us, I think it is slightly different, and that's also one of the draws for us and to want to partner with our agri-science department as well as the FFA alumni group.
And my last question, again, sorry to take this time and then I will yield to my colleagues, but my understanding, because I have been on these conversations for quite a while, is that there was another parcel of land that was looked at that was closer to where the agricultural and science classrooms are, but then there was some issues, my understanding, working with the city related to the layout, perhaps water flow, et cetera, some very specifics, and that this parcel is the parcel under much thought that the school district is recommending along with what was recommended from the city?
It was in partnership. You're absolutely right. So the previous location that was suggested was not viable. So then we had some continuing conversations about what could be viable, and that's why that's actually the genesis of the zoning conversation, because it was zoned residential, and in order to put a greenhouse on there, it would need to be institutional. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And while you're up here,
Yes.
I'll direct a question that I asked at the Plan Commission meeting as well. Is it the school district's intention to join these parcels to the main parcel that the school is currently on?
Yes.
Okay. And just to point out to the council that if that were to happen, these have to be rezoned institutional to join the parcels. So I have Jonathan, then Ellen.
By and large, I don't have any questions.
Oh, okay. Is it all right that I sit down?
No, you're good.
Thank you.
By and large, everything I was going to say has been said. I in general, always say that somebody should be able to do what they want with their property, but ignoring that, I think last year in 2025, around 70 school districts in Wisconsin closed down and had to merge with other places, and that is supposed to ramp up year over year. So we should be giving the school every opportunity for something they feel like is a potential success program, especially in a rural area, to help Ripon be a school that in 20 years is still here, and potentially other schools merge with us, right? We don't want to be the school that closes in, my grandkids' time, and they have to go elsewhere. With the amount of funding for school districts that is in Wisconsin getting smaller by proportion, like it feels like we should be listening to what the leadership of the school district feels is an appropriate program to launch and try. And if the largest concerns, I wasn't at the planning meeting, but if the largest concerns all relate to storage past ramifications of the animal building being there, or the agricultural building being there, in my opinion, that can be addressed with ordinance changes that we all vote on. However, I mean, we allowed chickens, and if all of a sudden every year we got hundreds of complaints of chickens, we would go back and revise the ordinance. So I feel like it is the same question here, so.
Ellen?
I have a little bit different take on everything. When I first read this, I was absolutely delighted that the school district was looking at this program, frankly, because our flagship university in Madison has a world-class ag program. We are an agricultural state. That is what we do. We do it really well. And this could end up being a feeder system for the ag program in Madison or other related fields. I thought it was a very well thought out plan.
Mark?
I just had two questions as it relates specifically to the zoning proposal. If we choose to not zone these parcels for institutional, are we as a council then requesting the enforcement of the ordinances for those parcels? Because right now, one of them is in non-compliance of the ordinances as it is. And then my second question is, we have ordinances for disturbances, smells, noise, all of those things that have been raised as real concerns. Like obviously, as Jonathan said, for chickens, like that was brought up as a concern. And as far as I know, there's been few issues across the board with that. So I think on the zoning, if we don't choose to rezone it, we are going to put the council and the city in a pickle on what that means for those parcels, because the district is not going to want to leave R1 parcels around it, so they will probably sell them off. I'm not putting words into anybody's mouth here, but I don't think the school district is in any wanting to cultivate and continue owning an R1, building houses on it or et cetera, which then, if they don't sell it or do something with it, then they're out of compliance with the ordinance as it is. And then any other concerns can be addressed with changing ordinances, applying ordinances that we already have for those concerns. So I think for those neighbors that have those concerns, there's already a mechanism, there's already a way that we can give them the power to make sure that their neighborhood stays as nice as it is right now.
Yeah, I was going to at least address Mark's first question, which is if we don't pass specifically related to the property off Tiger Drive, that's the issue. How do we handle that? Well, you can argue right now that since it's been R1, it's probably been R1 for who knows how many years, more than a year at least, then it's a non-conforming use, so that's a moot point, does not matter. We can't enforce anything against them, even if they were to do something with the property, if it's regarding the R1 zoning. So that's the first thing on the non-conforming use. The second point, this is actually to address the consideration of, this is all kind of hypotheticals. We don't really know what's going to happen with this barn. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? But as a council, it is our job to take into consideration what are the permitted uses through a rezone. And one of the questions here is, what is a permitted use? What is a laboratory animal? So that's still a very relevant point. I would certainly be more than willing to vote on that parcel, putting it into institutional, but that might be something that might be appropriate to address once we go through our zoning ordinance updates to then see, what are we actually serving up on institutional districts, R1, R2, et cetera. Because Planning Commission has been going through that in detail. And I think that's something to certainly consider before we do a rezone on that parcel. Because if we did rezone it today, and for some reason we get into a gray area of they put up a barn and we don't know if it's laboratory animals or barn animals, then again, a year from now it's considered a non-conforming use. And then if we were to change it, it wouldn't matter because they would still be permitted as a permitted use when they first put it in place. So those are the considerations I have. Ultimately, the thing that I come down on is more or less not, what are the permitted uses, just what should be the intended purpose of that parcel off Tiger Drive. And I think in my view, it should be housing. So that's why if I do ask when we do vote on this, I would ask that one parcel gets removed separately because the others I would vote for. But I would ask that the one on Tiger Drive, specifically, I think we mark it as parcel 1. That's the larger of the parcels, be separately considered.
Dave, then John.
But I'm going to get the chief in on this one. The biggest concern is smell and noise. So let's say, worst case scenario, the school decides to put cows, chickens, whatever, and there's a lot of noise, and the smell is there. If they call your department to complain about smell, barn animals making noise at 2 in the morning, what can you do about it, or can you do anything about it?
Yeah, there's specific language within the ordinances about nuisance properties and nuisance complaints. Those type of things are in that ordinance for nuisance properties or nuisance complaints like that.
Okay, so like anything else, not saying the schools, I think this thing's going to be great, but we have people that are concerned about this.
Mm-hmm.
But if this, for some reason, happens, they do have recourse. They just call you, and it gets taken care of.
Yeah, there are appropriate ordinances that would cover that.
Okay. Not saying you're going to do that, but thanks.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning of parcel 2 through 9 from residential to institutional.
And I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by John, a second by Luke. And just for clarification, this is the parcels all on East Sullivan Street.
Yes, 2 through 9.
Yep,
We have a roll call vote,
we
please.
will. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Yeah, is there, when it went to the zoning commission, is there, my guess is that question came up. If this, you're bringing forward that vote right now, about just talking about 2 through 9, was there any conversation about not including 1, and what were the reasons to include it?
There was a short conversation about highest and best use of parcel 1, and that would be for residential. 2 through 9 was not really talked about much at all. It was always houses. Those are the houses that were tore down. But 2 through 9 were probably, in my opinion, at the Plan Commission, weren't discussed much at all. Parcel 1 was, and it was the short discussion on best and highest use, besides the discussion on the barn itself.
But isn't that planned on that parcel, 2 through 9, correct?
What?
The greenhouse and animal shelter?
Not on 2 through 9.
So that is planned right now for 1?
Yes.
So we are saying we are restricting that use. So even though the school district has said we plan with the city already to have it on one, we are saying we don't agree, so we're going against our
We're
own
just voting on the 2
That's
through
just a
9.
motion.
advice.
We're separating the discussion for that parcel, so.
And let's clarify, I'm not aware of any plan that's
There's been no plan.
presented
There-
to the Plan Commission or the council regarding any of these parcels. So, I respect the council's decision to split out this parcel, but when people start talking about plans, there are no plans. These are all parcels that belong to the school that they have asked the city to rezone to institutional because they're an institution. That's what you have before you this evening. And that was pointed out by the mayor, and I want to echo that again. And I know there's been a lot of discussion about plans, but there are no plans before the common council. We all can sit back and speculate, and yes, the school got ahead a little bit in terms of getting to the public ideas that they may pursue associated with this rezoning, and that may have in part been the precipitating reason, but I think it's clear, as the mayor has pointed out, this is about the zoning of these parcels. And the council is free to speculate, and I'm not trying to pour cold water on splitting it off, but when we start talking about plans, there are no plans before the common council.
John?
You're correct, Lud, there is no plan, but in the application for rezoning, it says the request is also connected to a planned initiative of Ripon High School FFA alumni organization and would like to go, it goes on. So there's not a formal drawing plan, but they're talking that it's planned.
And I understand, I just want to clear in
Right.
terms of legality. There
Right.
is no plan that the common council is acting on.
Ron, may I ask you to come up to the podium again? Sure. For clarification,
Yes.
is it fair to say that the word plan was misused in the application and it's more of a discussion of an idea at this point? There are no plans, it hasn't been passed by the school board?
Correct. That is absolutely correct. In talking with Adam as part of the rezoning conversation, he made it clear that just because it's rezoned doesn't mean that we can start anything or do anything, and that's not our intent. Our intent is to follow protocol, and then after there is a rezoning, then bring forward any plan for the review by the city.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I do think it's hard, because if I'm on the school board and I'm thinking, well, can we vote, can we have discussion to move forward a greenhouse and ag educational center, and if it's decided from the school board that there isn't enough space in 2 through 9, they may say, well, we can't discuss it until it's rezoned. Now we're back at square one. We're saying, well, there's no plans, let's not move on this. And then the school board is saying, well, we're not allowed to because it's not rezoned. So it does kind of go back to, I guess what I'd like to know is, are we in essence saying that this potential plan or idea is dead in the water if we just move to rezone 2 through 9?
No, because
The other parcel is yet to be decided by the common council, so all you're doing is
we are currently
parceling it off.
discussing 2 through 9 as a rezone. Once we're done discussing and voting on that motion, I will entertain another motion for parcel 1.
I get that, but I mean, if I could just hear some of my colleagues, it sounds like some of them would like to keep this residential, and we all know that we have a housing shortage in Ripon. So I guess what I'm saying is I am both for housing as well as an ag educational center. Can we not have both? And how can we create this to be able to have both? Is it really one or the other?
The school brought this to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission voted all of the parcels to be institutional. That's the recommendation that's before the council. The council has the authority, ultimate authority, to determine the final rezoning. There are some council members who are suggesting they'd like to have a vote separately for 2 through 9 and separately on parcel 1. That's what you have before you. This idea that you're mixing and matching. The issue before the Common Council is the rezoning of these parcels. The motion on the floor is to address 2 through 9 first. 1 is still to be considered.
No, I-
That's the way you should view what's on the floor currently.
I do, and I'm just saying, if I think ahead, sure, then I would be in favor of voting 2 through 9 right now, but soon after, someone's probably going to make a motion for number 1, and a colleague may make a motion for residential, and I guess I want to know before we
No,
vote
the
on...
motion, there's not a motion for residential. There's only the issue of a plan commission recommendation to rezone these parcels. So there's nobody motioning for another type of zone. There's only one that is being debated, and what those council representatives that have spoken want to have that vote separate on 2 through 9 and separately on the first parcel. That's what's before, not changing it, doing anything else to it, debating it. They've given reasons why they might vote against it, but it's specifically the question of institutional zoning brought to this body by the school. That's the issue. Period.
Is there any discussion pertinent to parcels 2 through 9 before we have the vote on those parcels? In that case, we'll have a roll call vote for rezoning parcels 2 through 9 to institutional from residential 1. Diane?
Dankert,
Yes.
Dritsky,
Yes.
Gallops,
Yes.
Yatsky,
Yes.
Remar,
Yes.
Schatzinger,
Yes?
Sorensen,
No.
Split,
Yes.
the motion carries 7-1.
At this time, I will entertain a motion to rezone parcel 1, which is marked as 0 Tiger Drive, to institutional. Ellen?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Ellen, second by Mark. So I will point out, once again, that this parcel has been used as a sports field for decades. I've been in town since 1991. It was a sports field before then. I don't know how long it has been that. The appropriate zoning for a sports field is institutional, not residential 1. So rezoning this parcel would be appropriate for the current use. That being said, if you are insistent that it remains residential 1, the school district is the owner of this property. Are you asking them to become developers and start building houses? And if so, where do they put these sports fields? They're going to need to buy land somewhere to put those sports fields. Any discussion on this motion to rezone Lot 1 to institutional?
Well,
Steve?
that's all they're going to use that for is for practice fields?
No,
Not going to build
that is,
anything on
I'm
it?
saying that is what they're currently using it for, and they
Oh, I
have been
know.
using it for decades.
But you think it'd be grandfathered in as what they were using it for before?
It is, however, it is still not the appropriate zoning for that use. And Luke is correct, that if we do approve this to institutional, it does open the door to the laboratory animals, which the definition still needs to be clarified. The school district knows that. At the Plan Commission, we've discussed that further discussions will have to happen before that is a possibility at the end of the day. They are aware of that. It's not a done deal. Is there any further discussion? Mark?
I just want to say publicly that I'm often not a fan of continuing to do something just because that's the way we've been doing it. And in this case, I think that means that just because it is currently residential and has been used as institutional use, that we as a council and as a city and as bodies that need to not only represent our citizens, but also enforce those ordinances and those things that we ask our citizens to do, I believe that the best choice that we have right now is to rezone this so that the school district, the owner of the property, can decide what their best use is. I do not think it's appropriate for the city to be dictating to the school district what they should be doing with this piece of land, besides using our ordinances and using our zoning map to support what is good for the property owner, the school district, but also respecting the neighborhood, using our other ordinances and what the police chief said about if there are problems, we know how to address them. We can let our neighbors and we can let our institutions handle that as well. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this motion? Luke?
Just my last point on it. I do think if the zoning code is adjusted adequately to the point where maybe it's not a permitted use per se, but it's a conditional use, this keeping of animals for short periods, extended period of times, whatever that may be, I would probably vote in support of the changing, but just as of right now, given the current state of the zoning code, that's why I'm a no.
Any further discussion? One last time, is there any further discussion on the motion to rezone Lot 1, 0 Tiger Drive to institutional from residential 1? Roll call, please.
Dankert,
Yes.
Jansky,
No.
Gallops,
Yes.
Gatsky,
Yes.
Reamer,
No.
Schatzinger,
Yes.
Sorensen,
Yes.
Split.
No.
That motion carries 5-3.
Thank you. All right, moving on to our next item. Pay application number 7 for the Ripon Public Library renovation project. This is in the amount of $182,400 and is recommended for approval.
I'll make a motion that we approve pay application number 7 for $182,000, $182,400 for approval.
I'll second.
Motion by Mark, second by David. Any discussion?
It's my understanding that they are getting very close to being finished with this project, and that the final kind of move around happened this past week.
Not close to being finished. They're closing again. The project is going on, it's on schedule. As we move into May, Phase 2 will be done, which is with the west wing. They will then transition in late May, early June, close down, move everything that's downstairs back upstairs, and then they will begin Phase 3, which is the downstairs area. So they have quite a bit of work to do.
I thought they only had one more closing.
They have one wing that is open and redone, and there will be some closures upcoming. We ask for people's patience and understanding through those processes. Generally speaking, we still are on schedule to meet, I believe it's the September 30th deadline for construction. That's when the project has to be done by that date. So we got to keep moving.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving pay application number 7 for the Ripon Public Library renovations in the amount of $182,400, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Next item is the Ripon First Housing Project, 2026 funding request. Adam?
In your packet, you have a staff report related to the Ripon First Housing Program. It's a program we started in 2023 with initial funding of $15,000. There was then another request in 2025 for $15,000. The program is funded through the TID Housing Fund. It is money that's been collected over the last, I would say, 8 to 10 years. When a TIF district's closing, we extend it out a year, collect that increment. There's an accounting of that. There's around $600,000 available for what is considered affordable housing programs or housing programs through the community. So one of the affordability gaps identified in our housing study was first-time home buying. So we started a $5,000 grant for eligible homeowners purchasing their first home. It's a pretty simple and effective program. It has probably become the most popular we have implemented over the last couple years. We've had 6 individuals or couples buy their first home in Ripon. We market it actively to realtors, to banks. That's the best way that we're getting the word out. And then on websites and social media platforms. So there's been a consistent utilization of the funds. We have run out of funds, so we're asking for an additional $15,000 to be placed into the fund for eligible applicants to be awarded a grant. It's working really well. We've closed on 2 days' notice. That's how good and quick we can operate this program. But a lot of people are contacting us well in advance. So through word of mouth as well, it's kind of getting out. So to not lose that momentum and to continue to make Ripon a strong choice for somebody's first home, we are recommending that we put more money into the program.
Ellen?
I move to approve an additional $15,000 allocation from the TID Housing Extension Fund to continue the Ripon First Housing Program in 2026.
I'll second.
Motion by Ellen, second by Luke. John?
My only question is to Adam is that enough? I know last year there was somebody came in late and that there was no money available at that time. Should we be going with extra, like 30,000 or?
Certainly, I can always come back. I mean, we're always taking applications. It's a rolling process. We try to get people in before they close because that's how it works, and they're not eligible after. So while I understand there could be a time where there's not money there, but if they're coming in advance instead of after, it's helpful. And certainly we have more dollars available. But I don't want to pledge necessarily too many of those dollars with the idea that some of those dollars could go to other priorities down the road. So, you know, we've done it in $15,000 increments. You're more than willing to go further, but I think just based on how the program's been received, that it's enough to get us through the rest of the year. And if there's more needed, I can come back. But so there's nothing stopping us.
15, okay.
Luke, then David.
Yeah, I just want to state I am probably one of the 6 who have actually utilized this program. So my wife and I used this when we bought our house over in Sandmar, and we took full advantage of it. And it's like one of the big programs that I try to push on like my friends who are looking for houses. I say, hey, Ripon's got a $5,000, you know, basically bonus to buy your house. You just got to stay in it for 3 years, which most people do. The average is people who buy their starter homes stay for about 5 years. So you can at least keep them in the community then, and maybe they'll buy another house later in Ripon and open it up for others. So I'm a huge advocate for this. Yeah, definitely, if we utilize the funds, come back and let's allocate more to it, because I've definitely seen the benefits.
David?
I'm curious, hopefully you know this, of the 3 houses that we did last, what were the average sale price of the houses?
I believe one was around $280. It was a new house. The other was around $199, and the other one was less than I think it was $260.
Okay.
So generally speaking, not to pick on Luke, but his was probably the most expensive of the
Probably
6.
was.
It's hitting starter homes. It's hitting new construction. So it's not just all going to Sanmar. It's getting spread out among
Right.
different areas of the community.
No, thank you.
Any further discussion on Ripon Housing First funding? Mark?
Just two small notes, kind of more for the public than necessarily us sitting here on council. That within the eligibility requirements is that part of the affordability portion is that you can only pay up to 30% of your gross monthly income for the housing payment, including principal, interest, insurance, and taxes. That kind of enforces and reinforces the idea that this is for someone buying their first home. They should be able to afford it, that they're not just using this assistance to maybe stretch their dollars to get that next thing that they wanted to do. So that is a really good kind of boundary within it. And then also in a more general term, to anyone out there, it seems strange, but small programs like this, where there's direct dollars being allocated to your neighbors, friends, family, are some of the best return on investment that municipalities can have. The studies have shown over and over again that when a program like this is instituted, we're getting multiples of these dollars back in not only the property taxes that are generated, but from the people that are living here and working here and shopping here, and you're talking to them downtown and seeing them at church and all of those other things as well. So I just wanted to point that out for everyone.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of allocating $15,000 to the Ripon First Housing Program for 2026, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
That is approved. Our next item is to review and accept the LRIP and MSID grant for East Water Street. Adam.
In your packets, again, you have a staff report, including an award letter. And so one of the things we had talked about while discussing Houston Street and looking at our capital improvement plan was the need to address some of the concerns on East Water Street. So we did put in an LRIP, or a local road improvement program application, to the state of Wisconsin. And we were one of, 26 communities awarded an MSID award for 50% of the project. So the grant is for $228,018.07. So basically, we just got an LRIP MSIS, which is a very similar program for Houston Street. So now we have gotten it for East Water. When we apply for these, we have to hit specific criteria. And the idea when we're applying for LRIP is to maximize what criteria the state is looking for us to address in the projects. So for example, Houston Street was applied for because of the overall poor condition, because of planning within the state highway corridor. There is a need to upsize sanitary sewer to have an overflow area. There are potential of lead service lines. There is in proximity to the park, which is receiving improvements. There's proximity to the Boys and Girls Club. All of those things were the same issues on East Water, probably worse in terms of safety, if you've seen the road. So generally speaking, there are lead service lines there. There is as Jolene has said, a utility pole in the middle of the street, basically. And you're trying to fit a lot of things within instead of a normally 50, 66 foot right of way, it's pretty narrow there, right? So we looked to an application and got this funded based on those factors, and those weighted very heavily to our favor in the application scoring at the state level. We still have to scope this out. We have to plan it out. While we've done Houston Street and East Seward, we still have to engineer the rest of this and have some discussions regarding how that flows and how we replace everything there, because it is pretty narrow. But we are recommending that the Common Council accept the award and authorize the mayor and staff to enter the state municipal agreement and begin incorporating this into the capital improvement plan. It may be a 2027 project. It may be 2028. We'll just scope it in when appropriate based on we have years to do it. I mean, LRIP doesn't have a 2-year deadline. We have to do it, so we have some time, but we just want to get it in the mix and signal that we are accepting. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or motions?
Luke, just one maybe, and maybe this is a little picky, Adam, is it the expectation that we have to complete that construction project by the end of '27, or is it just started by some point during that time frame?
Don't quote me, but I think
really
you
matter?
have 5 years to get it
Okay.
started. So there's time.
We have,
Yeah, this loop, the park loop there has been on our capital improvement plan. We had hoped to do it with the Houston Street project. We took a step back when we saw that the project was getting to be pretty expensive, although we have the LRIP grant for Houston. So we made the decision to pull the loop out. At the same time, we made the decision to put it into the LRIP application pool. So instead of moving forward, as maybe Jolene would have, we said, stop, okay, and we now have a half of it covered. And while it certainly is more efficient, we understand that we don't want to be in that area too much. Certainly taking a step back and getting the award and planning this out right is a better approach long-term. So we'll scope it out. It could be 27, depending on a couple other things. It could be 28 or 29, but certainly within the guidelines of LRIP. Ellen.
I will do this for my colleagues in District 4. I move we accept the LRIP MSID grant award from WISDOT for the East Water Street project and authorize staff and mayor to enter into the state municipal agreement with WISDOT and direct staff to program the project within the upcoming capital improvement plan.
And I second it.
I have a motion by Ellen, second by Jolene. Any discussion on the motion?
I just said it, just a comment, and I know it's in the future and it's not really the agenda here. I've always thought that we should at least consider talking to the people there about turning that into a one-way in some direction. It just feels like there's a lot of turns and it's a really narrow street. You're smiling like you've already thought about this, so.
We've talked about it. So those conversations have sort of started internally and some externally to float the idea. So we'll continue those.
I'm glad I forced you to say this out loud. Then.
Yes. We're, like I said, there's not a lot of right-of-way and a lot of stuff needs to go in it, so.
Of course, I am very excited to be able to see this come forward for my district and, quite frankly, my neighborhood. I think that as we look to the state of roads across the city, I think that, again, it's well said, but just to state here that this is also about the utilities under the road. And again, we mentioned the possibility of lead service lines and the sewers. So it's sometimes a little bit more than just looking at potholes as a reminder as we look at what roads are prioritized. And if I remember right, Adam, a lot of work went into this funding potential as far as looking at information that we had to go around and collect from the neighborhood to get this. So even if, let's say, a case was made to say, well, let's use this grant money for another parcel in the city, no, there was qualifications that had to go in for this specific area, which it met, correct?
Yeah, so every time there's an LRIP, every 2 years they do a funding cycle. For us to get an award in the last 2 funding cycles is kind of crazy. But it speaks to the comprehensive nature of our applications, to the criteria in which they are rating. And the roads we are selecting certainly have potholes and surface conditions, but the subsurface and other safety and economic challenges or impacts are what make these rise to the top versus just a road that, is in poor condition, right? Mm-hmm. So we really focus on the total story of a road when applying to these versus just what may be on the surface.
Thanks for that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Do we need a roll call for
Yes.
Yes. Take a roll call vote for the motion to accept the LRIP MSID grant from WISDOT for East Water Street project and authorize staff and mayor to enter into state municipal agreement with WISDOT and direct staff to program the project with upcoming capital improvement plans.
Mayor, I'm so sorry. Can I make one more comment for discussion? Or, just because it was mentioned now, I think, twice to me that I know I had wanted it earlier. The reason being is because I thought it would save our community money. So just to be clear, I thought that having the equipment out there for the other area that was nearby would save us money. So I just want to make a point that that is why, and now seeing that we have the grant, of course, I'm glad we are waiting for the grant. Okay.
We're saving more by getting the grant.
Yes.
We are.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? So we'll take that roll call. Diane?
Dankirk,
Yes.
Janeski,
Yes.
Yelps,
Yes.
Matsky,
Yes.
Reamer,
Yes.
Schatzsinger,
Yes.
Sorensen,
Yes.
Split.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to the discussion on county highways within city limits. Adam, what did we find out?
So in your packet, there's a bit of a staff report, and I just wanted to bring this for discussion because we've had some just back and forth over the last couple months regarding this topic. So I sort of tried to summarize everything for you and provided you direct correspondence from the Highway Commissioner regarding the history and generally the condition and responsibility and the jurisdiction of county roads, or what would be considered county roads within the city limits. And it's kind of been an evolving conversation. It started with, well, we don't know when it changed, to all of a sudden most communities are like this. And much like what we learned with the state highways a couple years ago when the conditions were declining, and we take connecting highway aid, which we take shared revenue, or sorry, general transportation aid from these miles, right, of roads. So you're talking about kind of Eureka, Griswold, and then Berlin Road would be the
three
general E, and I think it's KK?
County F.
F, is it? Okay, sorry, yep. So basically, those three areas have declined to a point, and when we are taking aid, we are responsible for them. The county is coming through and doing a project on E and stopping at the city limits. We had at the time requested them to continue on into the city at any length, all the way to, that was on Griswold. They declined and said it was the city's responsibility. So what we learned during the state highway conversation is similar here, is because we take aid, we are responsible, and if we want to change a jurisdiction, they have to approve it, but then there's also a cost to cure, meaning they don't have to just take a road that's deteriorated, that the city would have to pay or correct the condition before they would sign off on it as a county. So you can see here kind of the overall background and discussion, and they had talked about maybe taking this to the Highway Committee. They have also indicated that there's no appetite for funding these. The city residents do pay in tax and sales tax that go to support the highway system, while the county highway system. While certainly there is a benefit that all of us have to that larger system, none of those dollars are coming to work on anything within the city limits, and that very well could be the case in a number of communities. And where we are generating the most tax and the most sales tax are in the cities in Fond du Lac County. There's also brief discussion about wheel tax, which elevated this concern in my mind, just hearing that at a county level, because of the fact that they would be collecting, and while there are county roads around us and we use them, that money would go out and not come in. So all of that led to this. And I am just seeking any direction from the council you want to provide administration, whether it's drafting a resolution, whether it's continuing discussion, whether it's to go to the county, send the county a letter, whatever you want me to do, but I will do it. But I just am seeking that at this point because I feel like, I'm sort of out here collecting information, and I can continue to complain, I can continue to argue, but at the same time, we need to have an understanding where we want to go with this issue.
Ellen, Jonathan, Steve.
Okay, I have what's going to seem like a very odd question. Seeing as we get no support from the county highway department, and I was part of the hiring team that hired this young man, and I'm a little irked. Would it be useful to try to talk to the state to carve us out of a proposed county wheel tax, because we do not benefit internally from that? And the other point I want to make is I take great exception, first of all, that a representative from the City of Ripon on the county board proposes a wheel tax to then play a shell game with money that's currently going to the highway department to fix roads. Part of that is sales tax. That's a great use, but then use the money, displace the money from the highway department and apply it toward a new jail. That's a shell game. So
I can just, to the point of the wheel tax, as one of two municipalities that has implemented a wheel tax in Fond du Lac County, the City of Ripon, right? There is no
carve-out?
There's no carve-out. It is based on the vehicle kept in registration numbers for the municipality or the county, and there's no, there's no carving that out. That's, I do not believe, without some direct legislation or some massive change, that you can just do that.
Be nice.
So.
Jonathan?
Yeah, so I guess the first part is just a question, and it's really, is there another level, like not carving out at a wheel tax level, but is there another level to go beyond the county to the state to see this agreement was made 30 years ago, like a lot has changed in 30 years, we don't.
100 years ago.
There's no paperwork.
There's been no
paperwork.
There's been no direct date found by anybody that says this is when this happened. So we're assuming it's been a very long time. The state has this in their statutes regarding jurisdictional changes and how it has to be approved. So there's guidance, right? And it's similar to the state highway guidance. So it was kind of what I was expecting going down this road was you're going to have to make improvements. They both have to agree, right? It's a whole thing. So the idea that we've been taking road aid, which reimburses, I think, Sean, 17%, approximately 15 to 17% of the expenses that go into maintaining the road from the state, which has remained relatively stagnant over a long period of time. The city chose that. The county would get that if we did a jurisdictional change. But there are statutes that govern this very issue, and they cite those in here.
So I guess the follow-up, and for what it's worth, I think the county should take over, so I'm not debating that. But cynically, and knowing your time is tied up here, reading this, I don't understand what direction we give you that has any benefit to us, other than spending your time, because everything goes to a vote there, and they will vote it down every time. So I just don't understand exactly like what that next step even could be, other than to say, hey, for the next 4 weeks, use 5 hours of your time every week.
It would be a direct ask or a resolution be drafted, which, we can do different things. We can, I can reach out to the state as well. I could, it's not necessarily a waste of time if it results in something. If we don't have a partner that's signaling they're willing to even entertain it, which They did say they could discuss it at a future highway committee meeting. If it's, Adam, go to that meeting and listen. Okay, great. That's fine. We're willing to put the time in because we understand the importance of this and the condition of those roads. So it could be as simple as a resolution or a letter, so.
We'll just point out that if we follow this cookie cutter method of getting it back to county jurisdiction, we cure the road, we give it back to them in a pristine condition. Yes, we have to pay that money up front to fix the road. Hopefully we can find another way to do this, but in 50 years when the road needs to be replaced again, it's not our problem. So it's really a long play at that point. Hopefully we can find some middle ground for the immediate, but the long play, we should figure out how to get it back to county jurisdiction no matter what. Steve?
I just had a question. Is the negativity from the county because those roads have infrastructure in them?
I wouldn't categorize, so just first, I wouldn't categorize it as negativity. I would say, I think their pushback has not been related to anything underground. It's purely financial. They are saying they are tapped out. They do not have the resources to take on the jurisdictional responsibility of these roads, particularly ones that likely need to be rebuilt or reconstructed. So we would have to partner with the county on any road project similar to the state, where if we wanted to say do Eureka Street, they would take maybe the driving lane, and then we would have to take the utilities and the parking lanes on roads. So there is a similar statute that governs this, and that would then be a coordination between us and the county to do a project. So even if we did give them back, we would still have the responsibility for the underlying utilities and certain improvements, but at least it wouldn't be 100%, and they would be taking the traffic load lanes, right? Because those are the connecting county roads, right? They serve more than just the city, just like the ones outside of the city serve the city, right? Anyway.
Mark?
Yeah, to Ellen's point about looking for a carve-out, I would actually argue somewhat the opposite, in that I would love to hear from the county how they're aiming to make a plan for all of the municipalities in the county so that Fond du Lac County can continue to serve, hold on, I will cite the exact number, all 386 county highway miles that they need to serve, and not just give the line that department receives, the tax levy that the department received has not changed over 10 years. That, to me, seems like maybe a failure of leadership at the county level. And I would love for the City of Ripon to go ahead and partner with the Fond du Lac County Highway Department to work on those projects so that we can all come away with a better built, well-maintained, and county highway system that can serve not only the City of Ripon, but our neighbors to the south in Waupun, and going out towards Green Lake County and north on E to those communities there. So I guess if we were looking for a recommendation, I don't know if we need to vote or have more discussion on this. I think I would direct administration to seek a written agreement, or at least begin to seek a written agreement on what those projects may entail, or where the delineation or cost share could start to be, because the responses that we got didn't really lay any groundwork for that. It didn't really talk about anything that they have worked with other municipalities. We talked to Fairwater or Alto, and what they do is we come to the line, and then they get, from the right-of-way, 8, 6, 10, whatever feet, they take care of that, and we take care of the travel lanes. There was none of that presented in these emails. They may have done that historically, but I would love to see that written down and shared, not only with the city of Ripon, but with our other municipalities, so that we all can see where we have responsibility and where the county has a responsibility for the infrastructure.
Ellen?
The not increasing the levy is disingenuous. In fact, a lot of this stuff is disingenuous. They're using sales tax to keep the levy low for the highway department, plus they get state funds. That levy thing doesn't cut it. That is not a good argument.
Are you saying that they're spending their money elsewhere and not on the maintenance of the things they already have?
I'm saying they kept the levy, they are keeping property taxes flat for highway, and then they didn't say their budget was flat. They said the levy was flat, so they're funding it with other revenue streams.
I referenced the sales tax in an email back to them because they didn't reference it before, and there's a $2 million allocation to go to road projects from sales tax annually in the county sales tax allocation.
Jolie?
I agree with what my colleagues are saying regarding let's, try to find a way to work together. Regarding what Ellen had brought up regarding the wheel tax, I understand that as individuals, we can contact our county representatives. Is there anything we are able to do regarding inviting our county representatives to a city council meeting to have them sort of answer what they're thinking or how they can serve the city? Is that allowable? Is that recommended? Could there be, if we came to a consensus, a type of resolution to make a statement to them to kind of represent us collectively, or is it really up to us just as individuals?
Yeah, I think one of the things would be, I can certainly reach out to the county board members that serve Ripon and fill them in on some of the conversation, because we certainly are going to need their support.
Yeah.
We can begin conversations with other municipalities that are in similar situations in the county to apply a little more pressure and get a consensus, because while the county board is going to have to maybe deal with this if they want to, Ripon is only 2 spots on a board of 20-some individuals, right? So I think there could be more discussion within municipalities and the county board that could lead to maybe more agreements and resolution to some of this, or fairness maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're coming here is going to do much of anything, because a lot of the work is going to have to be over there.
Yeah.
Mark, then
I love that idea, Jolene. I maybe would think if we invited, once they sit, the president of the Highway Commission, that maybe that person would be a good person to have and come. And I would just love to discuss, well, from their point of view, what does a successful partnership, what does a successful project, look like? Because as I said earlier, and as Adam just said, I think when you lay that out and you say, well, this is what we're expecting and this is what we want to do, you can take that and apply that across the board, and then everyone, all of the municipalities can understand and work together, and then the Highway Commission, and then through them, the county board doesn't have to take on all of that responsibility, and it's not just on them to do it. We can work together to make it work. So I think maybe that's an appropriate way to do it, at least for discussions, like I'm saying, just to say, hey, we're looking at making this work better in the future. What could that look like?
Luke?
Yeah, I think the last point that Adam was making, I think it's the only way that pursuing this is going to be successful is if you actually work with other municipalities, because respectfully, if just Ripon, throws their arms up and has complaints, the county's not going to bat an eye, because we have 2 county board supervisors, and I don't think we're going to get much favor just from 2 votes on a full county board. So if you do actually want to make a difference and you want a practical solution to it, you're going to have to involve the other municipalities, at least if not to move us forward, but at least put pressure on the county to know that, yeah, we're all kind of maybe potentially the same boat. What's every village and city in the county looking like when it comes to this? because that's the only way you're going to actually get some sort of resolution or agreement in front of the county board to ultimately accept it. Because if you're just the city of Ripon, I don't think the board's going to take that at all. So you definitely need more parties involved if we want to be successful. Otherwise, I'd say it's probably not worth your time, Adam, to be honest.
Yeah, I get it.
Do you have enough of a consensus, or you want something more concrete?
No, I can go from here and continue to work within the, I'll reach out to county board members, reach out to other municipalities, and we can continue the dialogue, and we'll provide updates as they come about, if anything can move forward.
All right, any last questions on this topic or discussion?
I just want to thank Adam for continuing to look at this. It's frustrating.
I'm going to add on to that. It's especially frustrating to hear from my neighbors near Griswold Street, knowing that the county has planned projects and then they come to the city, the line of the City of Ripon, the demarcation, and they just say, nope, we can't touch anything at all past that without any sort of discussions or hey, we're going to have the paving machines out here. Can we just continue on and you guys pay for material and, half the time, whatever it may be.
There were those discussions, Mark. And there was
From
no-
our side.
From our side,
Yes.
There was no's.
And it was declined.
Yeah.
Any sort of working together was declined. And that's frustrating. Again, that's my district down there, and I hear from my neighbors, and I drive on Griswold, and it's, yes, we as the city can take that on and put it in our capital improvement plan, and we can get it done, but it might be a couple more years, and again, it would have made sense to partner and get more done with more tax dollars. It's frustrating. That's it.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you for the discussion. Moving on to project updates and staff reports. Anything for PD? Finance? Diane? And Adam, you always have stuff.
I just had a second report for the month. So just quickly here, I sent correspondence to everybody regarding the East Jackson Street Bridge. So basically, you can read here, we were notified that there was a failure or collapse of a portion of a wall in the East Jackson Street Bridge. We responded and had MSA come out and re-rate the bridge. The bridge itself, we don't know the exact date of when it was constructed. It's been on the city's radar for many years in terms of a priority replacement. We had thought that when the state of Wisconsin came through and did their comprehensive ratings for the local small structure improvement program about 8-9 months ago, that when they rated it a 5, we could have maybe gotten more life out of it. They had rated Pacific Street a 2, and the program is designed to be up to a 90-10 split and start rating or start funding projects in the first wave of 4 or under. So we did submit an application for Pacific Street. That was about a $1.7 million request to reconstruct the Pacific Street Bridge. They had rated that one as a bigger concern than Jackson. So in communicating with the state after the failure and communicating with MSA, we had them come out, do an inspection, careful, and have it re-rated to a 3. That is what it would rate out to be, which would then potentially be eligible for funding. So today we did submit an application for the LSSIP for the Jackson Street Bridge as well. Okay? They will notify us in June whether or not there's been an award. And we'll kind of go from there. That project's about $1.6 million is what it came in at total in the estimate. So we've been able to quickly adjust and get that applied for. Worst case scenario, we do not get any funding in the first round. Best case scenario is we could get 2 awards to fund 2 bridges. So we'll see where it goes, okay? We'll continue to monitor the bridge, just like we continue to monitor the Pacific Street Bridge. In the event that there is continued decline that requires further closure of anything, we will communicate that to everybody and close the road. I do not believe we are at that point as of today, but the decline is happening, and the actual bridge structure itself is intact. It's safe to drive over. What could happen is the side could start to fail further into the sidewalk area, so that is why it's closed at this point. We do not need people walking on the sidewalk or around that area. Happy to answer any just general questions about that.
Mark?
None of us are professional structural engineers or bridge engineers, as far as I understand, but now it may be the case that it declines severely enough to close the road down, but would maybe restricting travel to one lane or one at a time be something that would be investigated or seen? Has MSA
We talked about, you know, a slow closure versus a full closure. We you know, but again, what's happening on one side of the bridge could happen based on some of the observed decline on the other side, right? So, again, we will continue to monitor it. We will try to limit as much, I don't know how to put it, but like, deterioration or damage, like we'll, you know, if it comes to that, we can close it down. But you know, the way it's built, and if you saw some of the pictures I sent, I mean, you're talking about an old mason stone structure that's essentially just collapsing on the side and is going to continue to have aggregate and sand and material fail due to vibration, due to water, due to, you know, and so how far it goes back, we don't know at this point. So, but we'll try to limit closure until we reconstruct. That is the goal.
I just fear that it may deteriorate quicker than we are expecting, as it kind of already has, based on the rating that it was given and now that it's there. You know, all of a sudden closing that road, saying, okay, no more, is definitely more of a shock to our traffic flow and our neighbors than maybe no trucks or, you know, one lane or something than that. I'm kind of just putting that out there that yes, we may have to act relatively quickly on this at some point, whether that's in traffic flow or in, you know, getting some sort of project done too, because they could go very quickly and become really bad if that bridge starts to fail.
Jolene, the movement.
Yeah, with my limited knowledge here on structural issues of roads, I like the idea of looking into a weight limit of vehicles to keep this, because even if we do get funding and can move forward with this project, it will still be a significant amount of time before we will be able to.
Yeah, I don't know how many, it's right off the state highway there, and the actual, this is a local road. There's a minor arterial road in Hall Street. That's where trucks and traffic should go, is Hall. Because that's considered the more appropriate road for that. So we'll continue to monitor it, and, you know, at this point, there wasn't in the inspection report this is an imminent failure or that it's going to need to be closed. This needs to be monitored, and it could decline quickly, but it also could be years away from needing to really rebuild it. So, so we'll continue to, like I said, monitor and have the bridge inspectors come out and look at it as we see things change.
And then not to be alarmist, but to have an actively failing, maybe that's a little strong, but bridge rank higher now than the other Pacific Street, maybe begs the question of what does, and I get that maybe we don't want to be so specific here, but I guess you can assure us that you are working to have a specific plan to monitor Pacific Street bridge, and it's more than just when we think about it.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to 2023, when the city had proactively inspected all of our bridges and creek crossings, which there are, I believe, 13. I believe 2 of them are state bridges, meaning they can participate in state programs because they're greater than 20-foot span. But we have a significant number of crossings for our community, and we met, I would say, 6 months ago or so at the DPW committee to review all of the inspections, and there was discussions about longer range planning to ensure that, you know, we're spending and prioritizing correctly regarding these crossings, right? In that time, the state came out and inspected, and they created the LSSIP because what they recognized was the majority of the bridges in the state are not ones that participate in the the DOT rated bridges. They're smaller. And they have also recognized that the majority of them, or a good chunk, are in similar condition as what we have here. So it is a nice and a great program that the state has come up with to say we're going to fund local structures, and we may be able to, just by happenstance or them recognizing that, get funding to address some of our most declining bridges, but we aren't the only one in this situation. There are runs that are rated 0 or 1.
Luke?
That kind of ties in, just a quick question. Do we have any sort of estimate when we might hear an answer on any of the applications?
Yeah, June. So June, yeah, so we'll know.
Is that for specific for the Pacific Street one, but not for the?
We'll know for both.
Okay.
So both have been applied for, both are in the same pot of, the mix. How we understand it is there will be, this is not like LRIP where you have to write a whole narrative. This is literally trying to tackle the lowest rated bridges and structures in the state one by one and distribute it via county. We do have the lowest rated bridge in the county in Pacific Street. So per capita, again, probably more than anybody else. So there's a lot of discussion that we've had over the past couple of years regarding these. But like other things, they are now declining they're all approaching end of life, folks. That's where we're at. So we have to begin utilizing the funding and our planning to address some of these, or you will see bridges that need to be closed or removed. It's just the reality. So, the Douglas Street rail crossing in the OCR order has been a treat to deal with. You can read a little bit about my update there, but we did meet with WISDOT and are trying to work with them to come to a resolution. But certainly some of the original Officer of Commissioner Rail order that was directed toward us that was not appropriate. They should have been directing that to WISDOT. So we have come to confirm that with WISDOT, and hopefully we can continue to figure that out with them. To give you a heads up too, in the next few weeks here, we'll be bringing forward permitting updates and fee updates for right-of-way permits, because there's a good chance that there is a significant boring and excavating project in our community that's going to be planned for later this year. And anybody that wants to learn about that, please feel free to contact me. I'm not going to bore you with that. No, sorry, I didn't even think that. But we need to be ready, because there is a lot of things that can happen with these projects. And when a new telecommunications company comes in and says, we want to install fiber to the entire community, we need to be prepared from a fee perspective, from a permitting perspective, and a regulation perspective. So we are working toward that. Council onboarding, I would like to schedule it for our next meeting, the 12th. If you, not mandatory, but certainly something we do every 2 years as just education, discussion, and we usually start at around 5:30. We can have food available, and then we would roll right into the council meeting. Usually take a half hour, 40 or 15-minute break between the two, try to get it to an hour and 15 minutes of training, and then roll into the meeting. So unless there is a strong objection from the council to not have it on that night earlier, or there's a better time you would suggest, that is what I would hope to do, so we don't get too far out from the seating of the new council. So let me know if that doesn't work. Thanks to Jolene, we also realize that our second May meeting is, unless you all want to come on a holiday, we will likely push that to Tuesday night, the 26th, because it would fall on Memorial Day. And last but not least, Jonathan Gotsky is not the senior planner for the City of Ripon. And all jokes aside, there has been a scam that we have been made aware of, that individuals that have filed planning and zoning permits with the city are getting sent fake invoices from Jonathan. It's a fake email, and asking for approximately $7,000. Our permits for that do not cost that much. But this is a scam. If anybody has received anything, please reach out directly to City Hall, contact me or the police department, and forward that information. This is an ongoing nationwide problem where people are trying to scam individuals that have tried to do work in municipalities to get approval for permits out of thousands of dollars. So just in a public PSA, we will not reach out to you with you usually pay as you apply, not after the fact. So, and anybody asking you to wire them money, I don't know if Bill can comment on, but it's probably don't do that. So just wanted to throw that out there too as a PSA. That's all I have.
And just to follow up on that, as a note to the public, any emails coming from city staff or council should be an email address with @cityofripon.com, except for the police department has their own domain name, but any official communication should be coming from @cityofripon.com.
Are we locked in with the fireworks this year?
Yes.
And, pardon?
Yes.
Okay, and did we boost it up a little bit more cost-wise, or because
Yeah,
it's the 250th?
So we did put more money in
Okay.
the budget. I believe the contract is for approximately $18,000. That was about a $3,000 increase. We are seeking and soliciting donations to help with that. And we would highly encourage individuals, if they are interested in seeing a longer show, because we still have time to add to it, to donate, because we can add more to it. Yes.
You gave us, or I think in a conversation, you had it broken down to what the cost is per minute.
$1,500 per minute.
Okay, so people can buy a minute.
$1,500.
Yeah, for $1,500, that firework could be yours.
Or your friends and family together.
Our hope is to continue to expand it and time the show so it's a little bit longer too, but ultimately, again, through factors that we can't control, fireworks got more expensive this year by 20 to 30%-ish. So, you pay more and you
Get less.
and with the competition of the 250th, it's even kind of more expensive, because they can take advantage of that fact alone, Don, right?
Okay,
So-
well, thank you, though.
And what is the date locked in?
It's the 3rd.
Third.
Yes,
Great.
and I believe, same,
And if they were to sponsor, who should they contact?
Ashton Zine, Parks and Rec Director, is running that. We do an event up there. We'll continue to do more than just fireworks that evening to kick off the 4th of July weekend. I think it's a Friday night, so we invite people up there, and there's activities. So, yeah.
Great, thank you.
You need to do a story on that.
Any other questions for Adam? All right, thank you, Adam. All right, tonight I have 4 appointments I would like to make. First one is on the Parks and Rec Committee, would be Tiffany Millen. This would be a reappointment for a 3-year term. Would I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by John, got a second by, is that Steve over here? Yep. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of reappointing Tiffany Millen to Parks and Rec, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And next is Jason Mansmith. This would be another reappointment to the Parks and Rec Committee for a 3-year term.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Mark, second by Jolene. Any discussion on Jason Mansmith? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving Jason Mansmith's reappointment to Parks and Rec, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, moving on to Plan Commission. First one is Chris Mathias. This would be a reappointment for a 3-year term.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mark, second by John. Any discussion on Chris Mathias? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving Chris Mathias' reappointment to the Planning Commission, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And finally, this is the seat that was opened when Luke was elected to council.
I did submit my resignation.
You did, yep.
It was like one sentence.
Appreciate
You're
it, thank you.
changing seats, huh?
I would like to appoint Doug Iverson to fill that seat for the remaining of the term, which ends April of 2027.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Ellen, second by Luke. Any discussion on Doug Iverson? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving Doug Iverson to Plan Commission for a term ending April 2027, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That's all I have for tonight. Any future agenda items or comments from council?
Just the potential date change.
What's that?
Just the potential date change for future council.
Yeah, we'll communicate, but that'll be Tuesday. Just mark your calendars for Tuesday, the 26th.
So it's official. Super.
Yeah, if that's okay with everybody,
I did send you that.
unless you want to come in on Memorial Day.
Anyone else?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Mark, second by David. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're adjourned at